So this year we have two sessions that we are calling our featured vendor session um, because they're talking about topics that are uh, important to all of us. So it's not just it's not a sales pitch. It's they're bringing their experience in the market to share with us their knowledge, and we're going to hear some great practitioners today as well. So we have a couple of these sprinkled out through the agenda. And today we would like to welcome the folks and the panel from the Make My Move group. So welcome, and I'll let you go.
Thanks, everybody. I'm Leslie Weidenbetter. I'm actually not with Make My Move. I'm the editor of the Indianapolis Business Journal and the editor of Inside Indiana Business, which is a statewide news organization with a TV show and radio program. And the folks from Make My Move, we cover Make My Move. This is a company that we covered from the beginning. And so they asked me if I would come and just be the person who asks questions. And I am super excited to be joined here by Kristal Painter, the COO of Discover Southern Indiana, an 8-county regional marketing group created by Radius, which is an economic development group. And since you joined the program, almost 3 years ago, right? They've had 67 households move to their region, 186 people. They've had 5,700 applications for the incentives they're offering. And the average household income of people who have moved to their region is $94,000. And I should back up and say, what Make My Move does is work with these communities to help them attract people from other parts of the country to move to their communities. We also have Colby Hall, Executive Director of Shaping Our Appalachian Region in Eastern Kentucky, known as SOAR. 28 households have moved to Eastern Kentucky under this program. That's 63 people. They've had nearly 2,900 applications. And the average household income of the people who've moved there is $113,000. And finally, we have Kelly Gourley, Executive Director of the Lincoln County Economic Development Foundation in Kansas. They drove 10 hours to be here today. They've had 6 households in the year or so they've been active. 6 households move in, 13 people, nearly 2,000 applications, an income average of $114,000. So you guys are all doing pretty well. I wondered if you guys could start by telling everybody about the things that were going on in your community that made you think maybe you'd like to try this kind of program. And Colby, why don't we start with you?
Happy to. Well, thank you so much, and it's great to be here with everybody. I'm Colby Hall. I'm the Executive Director of SOAR, which stands for Shaping Our Appalachian Region, from Eastern Kentucky. So I know we got some Somerset folks here, and I saw Brad from East Kentucky Power, and I got Murray State over there. So sorry if I missed the other Kentucky folks in the room. But so what happened and what kind of really stimulated our interest with this program was we're historically a coal-producing part of the country. And obviously, we have a lot of energy folks in here. Folks understand what happened to the coal industry. It declined, and that's what brought us into be, was kind of the loss of our key industry. But even before coal had its steep decline, our regions had issues with out-migration for a long time. So it's pretty simple for us. We feel like population loss is our number one concern and number one long-term issue the region faces. And if we don't get more people to come in and to replace the tax base that we lost with the decline of coal, to get more kids that are paying, that are in our school system, that's helping the state money come that funds public schools, everything else was going to be a whole lot harder. And we see this as a really important piece of fixing the population equation by taking advantage of folks that are on the move, looking to come to areas like Eastern Kentucky and doing everything we can to welcome here.
I echo everything he just said. Being small rural communities, population becomes stagnant. We have to bring in new population. We launched our program in the summer of 21. So remote work was becoming very popular. We have lower cost of living, great quality of life. So we thought it was a great time for us to introduce that to people that were now experiencing the ability to work from home or to
work remotely from anywhere. And so we decided to join this platform particularly so that we could try to tap into those resources and get some of those people to join our community to grow the population.
Yep. So Lincoln County, Kansas, if you want to know where that is, just point to the very middle of the country, and we're about 60, 80 miles straight south there. So Lincoln, Kansas is the county seat. We're the biggest town, and we've got a population of just over 1,200 people. Our entire county is just shy of 3,300 people. So we're rural. When it comes to the rural competition, we're a contender of who's more rural than who. And it was the same thing. We have been losing people for the last 100 years. If you look at our demographics, Lincoln's the highest population was back in 1940, I think, something like that. And we've been losing people ever since. So it was really just a matter of we have to do something different. If you keep doing the same thing over and over, you're going to get the same results over and over. And so it was a hard conversation with our board. I mean, this was out of the box thinking for us, but to kind of the idea of actually recruiting people. To me, economic development is no longer just recruiting businesses and then the people will come. We're now talking about recruiting people and the businesses will come. And so it's kind of like you've got to be working in different ways. And so we need more people. Let's go get more people.
Kelly, tell us about how you worked with MakeMyMove. How did you determine what incentives you were going to offer and how you were going to go about attracting those people?
Yeah, my memory is really kind of fuzzy on how all of this came down because, it's just like there's so much stuff going on. But ultimately, somehow there was a conversation with MakeMyMove. I think they called us. We did have this free land program. That's a whole story. But anyway, we kind of heard about the idea. I'd heard about Tulsa Remote. I've heard about Vermont's program. I've kind of heard about this remote work incentive thing. And so it's just kind of through a conversation. It's like, well, let's try that. Why not? And it was a challenge. There's a whole lot of like, are people actually going to move here though? So we're spending money, and are they really going to come? And so there's a whole lot of conversation there. But ultimately, it was just kind of a conversation. It's an idea with COVID and the whole idea of remote working. I mean, it just kind of it felt like the timing was right to try something like this.
Kristal, you all have had quite a bit of success. You explained to me you're in a larger region, but tell us why you think people are moving to the region. What has been successful for you?
I think they're coming to this region because it's just smaller communities. People can spread out. You can actually buy property. We've heard from several of our movers that they have a yard, that they didn't have a yard where their kids could play or they could take their dogs out where they were living in bigger cities. I think the access to all the natural resources that we have is appealing. It's just a low cost of living. The schools are smaller, things like that. A challenge for us is the amount of money or funding that we're able to offer. Is our incentive is $5,000. When you go out to the platform and look, the larger metropolitan areas are able to offer substantially more incentive. So we've developed like a program, and we advertise this on the platform, and MakeMyMove helps us market this, but we have like mover events that we host every quarter to where we invite all of those movers that are new to our community and their families to come and participate in events, and it's free for them to participate, but it helps us showcase our region, all of the things there are to see and do, because we want to keep these people. So we really want to show off all of the assets. We've been to baseball games, we've been kayaking, hiking, we hosted a beach party. Like, we've done all sorts of different activities. So that's something that I feel like we offer that's a little bit different outside of the monetary incentive, that we're able to showcase people that once you come here, like you have a friend in us. We're going to come knocking on your door every 3 months and inviting you to an event and keeping that engagement going with them.
Colby, can you talk about the experience of, of creating your incentives, or how you decided what to promote and what it was like to go through that process?
Well, we promoted what we felt like our competitive advantage was, which is we have beautiful mountains, streams, rivers, a culture that's second to none, a country music highway that produces some of the country, the country's biggest stars. So I'll be honest, our opinion on the incentive is that, nobody that's making, a household income of over 100,000 is making a decision to uproot their family for $5,000, right? Especially $5,000 that they get half up front when they've purchased a house and then half a year later. But is it something that shows that we really want them there? We want to try to contribute something financially to pay for half of the U-Haul. To me, that's what it signifies. But it's very clear in what we've heard from the people that have moved and why they're interested in Eastern Kentucky. Not once in those testimonials did they mention anything about the money. It's much more, this is a beautiful place to live. It's a more affordable cost of living, high quality of life, safe schools. The politics are better. I mean, that's what people say, right? And it's all those things of why people are attracted to Eastern Kentucky, and the incentive just de-risks it a little bit.
Have you experienced the same thing where the incentive, the financial incentive, isn't a huge part of it?
Yeah, to me, I feel like the financial incentive, that's the hook. That's the thing that gets people to click. When you go to MakeMyMove.com, that's what brings people in. But it's not the thing that's going to make them stay. It's not the thing that's going to make them move. I mean, what's going to make them move and what's going to make them stay are those connections. It's really kind of the people that they meet, making sure that, they know that they are welcome, that they have friends, that they've got connections. The couple things that we offer, one, will help you unload your moving van,
Hey, that's
truck.
a big deal.
We know that you've got help probably to load your moving truck, but when you're moving here and you don't know anybody, you don't have anybody to help you unload, so we'll help you unload. We're a very farm community, so our little gimmick that has gotten us a lot of press is we'll give you a dozen free eggs, farm fresh eggs every month for a year, because we are an ag community. That is who we are from the core. And so honestly, talking to Make My Move, in this kind of ramp up period, it was a little bit of soul searching in terms of who we are and who are the kinds of people that we're really trying to attract, but not just who that we're trying to attract, but that are going to be attracted to us. And so the idea of we are a farm community, we give of ourselves, that we grow our needs, and so giving and sharing of that. So that was kind of one of those big things that has been wonderful for us. And actually the official Make My Move egg lady is in the audience with us, so she'll kill me if I make her stand up. But if you want to know all about farm fresh eggs, we can do that. But anyway, that's just been one of kind of those things that have really helped, I think.
So I know you all have received more applications or more interest than you have actually had folks move. So tell us about that process. What's it like to get an application? Are you evaluating folks, and do you go through a lot of process where people think they might move and then decide not to?
We've had that a few times. I think one of the challenges for us is lack of housing. So we have that significant amount of applicants that are interested in our area, but then sometimes they start trying to really dig in and look to see which one of our communities or 8 counties they might be interested in living, and they just can't find the housing. So that's been a challenge. I know talking prior to this panel, I think we all face that challenge. So each of our communities is trying to address, housing shortages, which I'm sure everybody out in the audience is also trying to address. So that's our biggest challenge. When we first started the program within our region, each of our 8 counties was going to focus on a different aspect or thing that they wanted to recruit. Somebody wanted people with college degrees. Somebody else wanted something else. They wanted these different things, and I think that made it a challenge at first too. So after just a few months of that, we kind of came back together and was like, no, we got to have one unified person that we're looking for. We need to be more open to this. We need to have a person that's on the ground that's assisting them, connecting with realtors, that sort of thing, so that we can help them try to locate the housing or make the connections. In small communities, we don't have Zillow. Like, our people do not post rentals or leased available properties in places like that. You got to go to the Facebook person or ask them. So it's like trying to get those people in our community to understand that we've got to have access to that information has been one of the challenges that we've overcome too.
Colby, I know you said that you all have struggled with the housing issue as well. How are you tackling that?
Well, so it's hard. I'm sure it's hard for everybody. in the room, our housing stock in Eastern, it's a lot of older houses, and some 3 or 4 that haven't passed inspection. You kind of go back to the drawing board. For us, our program's expanding, so we've been kind of in this first initial pilot phase, and then we were fortunate to have gotten an influx of funding from the General Assembly in Kentucky this past session. So really any day that should be hitting our bank account, and we're going to go to, from 4 to 30 or so counties. So that's really going to help the housing stock increase, just expanding the places that we're going to go to. But to her point, having somebody full time. I mean, I'm a sales guy at heart. That's where. Seeing the leads come in, they're hot leads. So get on them quickly, have the conversation, and we're fortunate. Latasha, a friend who manages our program, she's wonderful. She makes a great first impression. It's all those little things that go a long way for people that are contemplating a move. But I'll credit to MakeMyMove. The platform does a really nice job. As you see those leads come in, they're pre-selecting based on certain criteria that you've given. So you remove some of the stuff at the very top of the funnel, so it already kind of starts to self-select. And then you can get in and look. And somebody that has, on a scale of 1 to 5, how interested are you in Eastern Kentucky? And they have 5, and then they've written a couple paragraphs of why they're interested. That lead's super hot. Get to them early. Somebody that's at 3 and they're just checking it out, kicking the tires, well, that lead's still important, but that's going to be prioritized behind the guy that's trying to move tomorrow, right? And they do a nice job of when you get into every lead, you can see that, and you can figure out who to get to first and who to spend your most time on, and then kind of work your list, down from there.
Both of you mentioned funding, and I was wondering what kinds of challenges did you have in obtaining some funding to make this work? Because while $5,000 might not be a lot to an individual family, when you all add it up, it adds up to some money. So how are you funding your programs? And in addition to that, did you have any trouble selling the idea to the people who would provide funding?
So our goal was 5 movers, and $5,000, 5 movers, that's $25,000. And that's just the mover thing. Then we were working with MakeMyMove, and so there's additional funding there. So for us, we were the first ones in the state of Kansas to kind of get this idea or kind of launch it. And so I made a pitch to our Northwest Kansas Economic Innovation Center, which has funding. And I kind of said, listen, I think this is a really interesting idea. I think it's a really cool concept. I don't know if anybody's going to move or not, but we got to try something, like this. Let's do something different. Let's really, think forward. And would you help with some funding? Let us be a pilot. Let us test this idea out and see how it goes. And if it goes all right, maybe we can launch this more into a regional program. And so that's really what's now happened. They helped, provided half the funding for the mover incentives, and that's been great. And I've been keeping up to date on what our numbers are. And now they have actually seen that. And just in the last couple of months, this has now expanded into a whole Northwest Kansas regional program. And they're providing the funding for 24 counties for these movers incentives. So it's we kind of used it as let's give this a shot. Let's try something new, and that's how we did it.
Colby, tell us how you got money out of the legislature.
Well, it took some time. Our first pilot, we just did it. To your point, you just find a way. Folks love talking about the idea. They saw a lot of promise, but nobody really wanted. So we were fortunate to, just use some of our own funds to try to find the first 10 households over 2 years, and we saw some early success. We had a great advocate in the state Senate president in Kentucky who comes from Eastern Kentucky and whose community has been decimated by the loss of the decline of the coal economy, and who is very open to innovative ideas. And pretty much we worked with him over a while, and he said, go raise some private match money, go see if you can raise some money and stuff that we could kind of show there's some group buy-in. And so we were fortunate to go and raise some money from different levels, from chambers of commerce and county governments and city governments, of which Somerset was one of those, and had a big backer in Kentucky Power, a utility company that covers some of our core deep Eastern Kentucky counties. And we made it happen and presented it, and it was included in House Bill 1, and we saw that. And even though our name was wrong in the bill, it didn't. The 1.5 million was not, and that was the most important thing. And so we're going to take that, and our goal over the next 2 years is close to 250 people relocated, roughly 100 households. And, you know, just kind of believe and have faith that if you have success and you're doing the right things, the next step will take care of itself down the road.
We're a regional group, so we have 8 counties. And so the regional organization, we found money to support it on our own. And then we've asked each individual county if they would be able to contribute a small portion of the incentive. A few of the counties were completely gung-ho and was on board from the beginning. A couple were really unsure, didn't want to commit at first. So we started with 4 or 5 counties, and that funding was coming from the Economic Development Office or Community Foundation, and they saw some success. And so as soon as those other counties started receiving movers and their economic development offices were talking about the economic impact that was being made, some of these people that came to us through the remote program, they actually quit their remote jobs and they joined the local workforce. Spouses are coming along, they're joining the workforce. So the other counties saw that. So then they magically found some money too. So now all of our counties are participating. They see the value in it. MakeMyMove just rolled out this new tool recently where they can provide these reports that show the economic impact. And when you're able to share that with your board of directors or your elected officials, they see what it really is going to do for the community. And so I think it makes it a little easier for them to say, yes, let's do this.
And Kristal, you were mentioning to me where people were coming from. Can you share that with the audience?
Yeah, we have over 70 movers now, and we've got people have moved in from 23 different states and 5 different countries. So I think that says a lot about our quality of place and what we have to offer in Southern Indiana. But it's just been amazing to talk to the diverse group of people, you know, people coming from Costa Rica or Ecuador or Malibu Beach in California, and they're choosing to come to Southern Indiana is just amazing to me. And I love having those conversations with those people.
I think we've just got just a couple more minutes, but does anyone have any questions they want to ask of this group? Well, then I'm going to ask each of you what your recommendations would be to anyone here who's considering this. What would your recommendations be for getting started on something like this? Colby, I'm going to point to you first. I think probably they don't want any competition.
No, that's not.
So
that's not it at all. I mean, my recommendation is just do it. I mean, and I know that's not like a great recommendation, but if it's something you've been thinking about, if your county or your community is struggling with some of the core issues that we've talked about today, which is most rural areas across the country, you want to tap into this short to medium term opportunity we have where people are uprooting and looking to move, and you don't want to put up the money yourself to run these complicated digital media campaigns to drive the leads. This is a great way on a budget, like on a realistic budget, right? To be able to tap into some of this where the ROI is there when you get your first few movers on a per mover basis. So just get going, get started somewhere, have some conversations, and don't discount the assets that you have in your community. I mean, the last thing I'll say, I talk about Eastern Kentucky is a beautiful place. I talk about it all the time. I talk about it without even thinking about it because it's just some of my talking points, to be honest. But then you get on this platform and you see Pedro from Florida that's in near South Beach, and he's just drawn to the mountains and it types out these very well-written paragraphs about what and it's all the stuff that you kind of say. It just kind of makes you step back and say, "What? That's the stuff we're saying is true. It's actually true," and don't discount those assets because for somebody that's not from there, that means that means a lot to them.
And let me ask a question. These kinds of things can be really intimidating. I mean, even with AI helping us out, they can be really intimidating. I assume that MakeMyMove isn't leaving you out on your own to try to figure out how to write those paragraphs and how to do that, Mark.
Well, I was talking about, this is from applicants.
Oh, okay.
The applicants talking about why is Eastern Kentucky why are you interested in Eastern Kentucky? And it's saying all the things that I would say are benefits, but it just means I don't know, it just hit me different reading why this place is interesting, intriguing to somebody from Texas or somebody from Florida or from California. That's what I meant, the things that candidates themselves are saying.
Kristal, what are your thoughts?
I would say the same thing. And I would say use us as a resource. We've had just a very short time here just to hit some highlights. If you contact me, I will be open and honest to you about our experience and help you along the way. But I don't think, like you said, there's nothing to be scared of about it. They're going to help you with the marketing message. They're going to help you figure out the incentive and the unique aspects that you can offer. Be creative with what your incentives are. I didn't know about eggs, that we could use that as an incentive. We're over here taking notes. When you said that you're unpacking the truck, we were both like, okay, write that down. Because there are things that we can offer, and I think we sell ourselves short as being these rural communities, and I think we got to stop doing that.
And Kelly, what advice do you have for folks in the audience?
Well, I think, when you think about economic development, we all have to evolve, and this is just a way to evolve. The whole idea of remote work, we've kind of talked about that for a long time, like, you can work from anywhere, but with COVID, that definitely changed. And I think for us, it was really scary. It was, honestly, it was not 100, not every board member voted to do this. This was it was a lot of conversation. I'm really excited to have that one board member eat crow, though. But that's just kind of who I am when it comes to kind of winning or something like that. But one thing I would say, and I joke about this, I was joking about it earlier, is what MakeMyMove is, to me, this is like Match.com for economic development directors. You are connecting one-on-one with people who have an interest in you. You have an interest in them. You kind of want to feel each other out a little bit. I try to be very honest with people. Like, we are rural. Walmart is 40 miles away. If that's what you want, this isn't going to work for you, but if you want the small schools, if you want to know your neighbors, if you want your kid to be able to ride their bike to and from the pool every day during the summer and not have to worry about him, then we're for you, So I try to be very honest with who we are. I try to engage a lot of conversation with them just to kind of understand who they are and what their motivation is for moving, and to kind of make sure that we're a good fit, And frankly, there has been a few people where, we met them and, they came and visit, and I just like, oh, I hope they call me back, because I just love them. I want them to move, and then they didn't, and it's soul crushing, and it's like, oh no. So there's a lot of that. But there's, with the ones that do move, though, it's been wonderful to get to know them, to kind of see your community with their eyes, and what they enjoy and the experiences that they've had. I'm probably talking too long, but one thing, the first mover that we had, she was a single mom, 3 kids that moved to town, and she's just had so many wonderful things. But one thing that sticks out to me is she walked into the bank one time, and she just walked in, and one of the tellers just said, "Hey, Tasha," and she's like, "I don't think I've ever walked into a bank before and had somebody say my name," and it's just like, wow, that is so cool. She moved from the Nashville area, and so it's just been really fun and invigorating and inspiring to kind of see when this happens, how things have changed, what the impact is then on them, what the impact has been on us, and so forth.
I just want to add one other thing too. We don't be shy about asking MakeMyMove about other workforce that you can attract. It's not limited to remote workers. We've tried a few different pilot programs with them where we were looking for CDL drivers, looking for healthcare workers right now for a few of our businesses in the community. So I think if you have those conversations with your employers as well, that you can come up with other funding sources too to help them attract workforce. So just have those conversations.
Well, thank you guys for telling your stories.
Oh, I have one question. So my name is Penny Peevler. I'm from Frankfort in Franklin County, Kentucky, and we have a program with MakeMyMove also. We have a pilot program to move 5 people. We've moved 2 people. We moved our second person last week, and she's amazing. I just wanted to tell a little story about our first mover, which has been interesting and hard, and then I wanted to ask you to talk about some of the things that you've done to help movers find housing. because we obviously are struggling. We have an amazing family that we're trying to move here right now. We're just really struggling to find the right match for them. So, in fact, I went to the deed room earlier this week and pulled the mortgage of someone that died because we're hoping to rent their house for them. So I know what you mean when you say you have to kind of go above and beyond. But we love this couple. We want them to move. Something that you said earlier about how sometimes people come with their remote job and then they leave that job and go into the workforce. I want to underscore what a good thing that is. You know, I had people who didn't understand that. They're like, oh, this is terrible. She doesn't have her job. Well, no, actually, now she works for the state and we're still getting her occupational taxes. So that's, you know, that's why we moved her. And that happened with our very first mover. So the other thing that happened with that mover is that she had some life changes that happened to her right at the time when she was moving. And I will say one of the things that she said to me is that she felt the concern of the people that were helping her try to help her through this situation. You know, she ended up getting custody of her 3 little grandchildren, and we had to get them in the early learning village and get them connected with all these resources when she thought she was moving for kind of a senior citizen, you know, experience. So I think all of those things can be good things that come about the community pulling together. But I would love for you to talk about some of the specific things that you've done to help with the housing.
Do we have a minute to do that?
Yeah, let's just
Okay.
wrap up with the answers to that question, and then all of you are going to be here for the rest of the summit. So I hope these conversations definitely continue, but we'll end with the answers to those questions.
For us, it's just one-on-one trying to find housing. I mean, I tell the people, you know, the hardest thing is housing. So, you know, here's kind of the top hit list, you know, of the realtors and so forth. This is where to, you know, the website and everything. But tell me what you're looking for, and I'll start working, you know, the ground game, you know, and that's really what it has to be for us. I mean, I have talked to the realtors and kind of our one biggest landlord of rentals, and just kind of said, tell me when something is coming down the pike. You know, I need to know before it becomes available, because when it becomes available, it's no longer available. It's already rented. So I need to know, you know, when you know something, tell me, because that way we can start talking about what's coming down the pike. And honestly, if it wasn't for housing, you know, we had a goal of 5. If it wasn't for housing, we would have had that goal a long time ago, I think. So it's just how it is.
We have those same conversations with all of the realtors. We're making phone calls from our office. We're not just expecting the person that lives in another state to make these phone calls. So it's like we're really boots on the ground, trying to help them make those connections. We've hosted people to come in to tour our region and connect them with realtors as well when they come in. And we've had a few people that have come in and signed leases immediately when they came to tour the region. But I think you just have to have those relationships with the realtors, with the people that have the rental properties, and just, like she said, I've had those same conversations about if you know of something coming available, I probably have someone in the pipeline that could be looked at. And I think reassuring those people too, because they don't know these people from out of state. So sharing the information with them that you've reviewed the application, you know this, you've had this conversation with the person, I think that gives some assurance to them too, to where they're a little more likely to say yes when you're talking about a stranger for them.
I don't have wish I could wave a magic wand. We just hustle it really hard, and we try to hustle it with realtors, folks that are landlords, stuff that's off the market, and try to get as early a jump on it as possible. But it's a real challenge.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, MakeMyMove. We thought it would just be an interesting discussion, and thank you, Penny, as well, for adding to that. They will be around the entire summit, so you can continue that conversation with them. Now we're going to do we don't have a break. We're just going to do a quick transition and